watching UPN News 13 with Alan Frio, Tawny Little, Danny Romero with weather, and Newey Scruggs sports.
Well, this is one of the most bizarre places you will ever see. It's called Slab City, and you'll find it right in the middle of the desert, in the shadow of a Marine Corps bombing range in Imperial County. It is home to families of squatters, but some say it's also home to disease, crime, danger, and sometimes death. Let's go to Peter Thorne. He's live in studio to guide our tour of this so-called no man's land. Peter?
And a wacky tour it's going to be. All right, guys, we're about to take you to a place most people probably can't even imagine. It is one of the largest collections of ragtag drifters, squatters, oddballs, and outcasts ever to gather in one spot. They say they have escaped the rat race, but some say behind their tumble-down shacks lurks danger and disease. It's right here in Southern California, near the Salton Sea, about an hour and a half past Palm Springs to the east. It's a place called Slab City. Locals call it Slab City, built on concrete slabs left behind when a World War II military base shut down. The people who live here have nicknamed themselves slabbers, happily calling home one of the most godforsaken patches of land in Southern California.
This place here is it's a nice place to visit. You might not want to live here, but you might. There's a lot of strange things that go on around here.
It's strange, all right, and full of colorful characters, but critics worry Slab City's full of problems, too, calling it a breeding ground for communicable diseases, a health hazard for kids, an environmental trouble spot, and a drain on state taxpayers.
Are you irritated by people? Somebody who would call you a freeloader, does that irritate you?
No, sir. You could call me whatever you like. Maybe I'm a piece of garbage. Who the heck knows? But basically, I still have love in my heart for my fellow man, whether they love me or hate me.
640 square acres, a massive squatters camp overflowing with society's outcasts, living in dilapidated motorhomes, broken down buses and tattered tents, most on public assistance, others just trying to make ends meet, like Becky Baker.
We just pulled up and we all just started talking. But when you look at the place, you think, well, how in the world are you cooking? How are you cooking? How are you cleaning? How are you keeping the food cold? Do you have a refrigerator? Do you have a stove? Do you have electricity and running water?
Yeah. I'm not most people out here. I have a flushing toilet, I have a bathtub, I have a washer.
A mother of four, Becky's lucky. She uses solar power to run a small generator. But most slabbers survive with no electricity, no telephones, no sewer system, and no running water. This here might not look like much, and it really isn't. It's just a hole in the ground, really. But for slabbers who don't have any running water, young and old, this is where they have to come to take a shower. Robert Parman was happy to show us his makeshift tumble-down shack. Like anyone, he's proud of his home. Robert moved here from Oakland to be near his mom, another Slab City resident.
You want to see the snake?
Before taking us inside, a warning. The cabinets are full of snakes and scorpions. And he wasn't kidding, they're his pets.
Right over here. Here he is. Don't worry, don't worry. He won't hurt you. He's my security man. See him? So if those burglars come in here, you can't offer that guy a bribe. He's a nice boy. His name's Mark.
Robert Parman's just one of 150 folks carving out a castaway community for themselves. Want to live here? Do what Robert did. Just pull up next to a bush and park and get ready to rough it.
And this is another one of my inventions. What I do with this is I can put poop down in here, and I got plastic bags down in here. I seal them up, and I hire my brother-in-law, and he takes them out to the rest area.
But you got to admit, you're out here on state land, you're not paying no rent.
That's possible.
What do you mean it's possible? It's a fact.
That fact is what a lot of people are complaining about. Nobody at Slab City pays rent or taxes. Been that way for 40 years, a drifter's paradise. For some slabbers, this is America's last great frontier.
What's it like up in here?
You got freedom. Unlike living in town, you got freedom out here. You don't always have to worry about someone always breathing down your neck.
67-year-old Leonard Knight is a big fan of Slab City, too, admits he's a squatter, and fancies himself a painter on a grand scale. His canvas, a hillside dedicated to Jesus.
I'm a squatter. I came in here, I snuck in here and built a mountain.
Do you have a bit of shame about being a squatter?
No, I don't.
Knight calls himself a sinner who moved here from Vermont and found heaven on earth. But to Becky Baker, Slab City can seem like hell's half-acre. Miles of scrub brush and blazing sunshine, a ramshackle refuge baking in the California desert.
Why not just pick up and leave?
I would if I could. Right now, I don't have the money.
There are some folks who wish Becky Baker would move and take everyone else at Slab City right along with her. Let's start with the U.S. Marines. They've got an active bombing range running right alongside Slab City. Sergeant Dale Massillin commands the military police patrolling the perimeter.
Would you consider Slab City a good neighbor?
No, not really.
That's because slabbers risking death or injury routinely trespass on the range in search of bombs like these. Some unexploded. They cart off and sell them for scrap. One slabber had one blow up right in his face, killing him. But it hasn't stopped the thieving.
Who knows what's laying out there a few inches under the sand? Anyone that goes out there is risking themselves.
The Marines say it's stuff like this the folks from Slab City are after when they go sneaking onto the bombing range. This is about a 30-pound tail fin off a bomb that was dropped on the range. They say if you clean something like this up and slice it up, you can get top dollar for it out on the salvage market.
The slabbers also like stealing camouflage netting off the base, so the Marines have stepped up security. But for Sergeant Massillin, a veteran Marine who's seen it all, he ain't seen nothing like this before.
It's just not something you expect to see in the United States, especially California. You know, it looks like a movie set. Mad Max, that's what it looks like.
Along with the military, a majority of county supervisors wish the slabbers would hit the road too. Supervisor Bill Cole calls them a bunch of freeloaders.
But those people don't want to pay anything. They just think that they should be allowed to go do their thing.
But perhaps what worries the supervisor most about Slab City is the kids. Many don't get good nutrition or even go to school. He and other officials say there's a threat of disease like hepatitis and tuberculosis.
What do you think about parents who would raise kids in conditions like this?
I think that is a tragedy.
County officials can't do much but complain since Slab City sits on state property. County supervisors now so angry they're threatening to sue the state to force a Slab City cleanup, maybe turn it into a state-run RV park charging user fees. State officials refuse to come on camera, but say, quote, Slab City is not a facility adequate to camp on. It was never for camping. The state says, quote, we're not in the business of renting property. The state doesn't seem to want much to do with solving the problem of Slab City, but one man who can't choose to ignore it is local fire chief Mike Alexic. He says more than 20% of his calls are to the slabs.
I have a good rapport with most of the people out there. I have no qualms with anybody out there. I think it's sad that they choose to live that way.
Alexic, here out on patrol, is not just fire chief. He sits on the school board. He says the slab kids often come to school hungry, their mouths full of rotted teeth, their bodies unwashed. It breaks his heart.
It always has. It's, like I said, though, it's not their choice. To me, they're kids. I do whatever I can, or we do whatever we can. We help them any way we can. Try to make the best of a bad situation for them.
Chief Alexic has worked the slabs for 30 years, been shot at twice, delivered 5 babies, seen men die. He's become a weary caretaker.
They've had a couple murders, a couple attempted murders. A lot of it's areas like what you would see in the back hills of Kentucky. It's areas you don't want to go into by yourself.
One of those areas is near where Becky Baker lives. In fact, she told me because of all the crime around, they ought to call this Stab City, not Slab City. Becky says she just moved to the slabs 6 months ago, says her mother told her to come on down, bring the kids too. Now she says her mother was wrong, that Slab City isn't America's last great frontier. It's a place where dreams dry up in the desert sun and blow away.
So as the state and the county keep on squabbling over just whose job it is to take care of Slab City, the slabbers just keep on living there rent-free and tax-free. Out in the desert, acting for all the world like their squatters' camp is just another normal, natural California suburb. Alan, Natalie?
Amazing story.
Bizarre.
Thanks.
There is much more ahead tonight on UPN News 13. When we come back, the latest chapter